Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 44 of UK League Chat. Joined as ever by my co-host Tom. Just saying there, for those watching the stream that heard, he is back. He's got over the whole tea incident. We talked it out. We've come to an agreement. We're going to carry on anyway. We just won't bring it up again ever. So yeah, that's
Yeah, it's unspoken rule now. That's it.
This is the last
Just
time.
causes arguments.
Yeah.
It just causes arguments.
So no more tea talk from now. And our guest for this episode.
I'll be the host if you like.
There, that's if Tom breaks the rule. Yeah, so our guest this time is Synygy. Synygy, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Good stuff. Happy to have you. And for those that don't know, Synygy is the founder and ops director of the UKEL, which is well, let's just start then for anyone that doesn't know much about the UKEL, because we obviously normally focus on the NLC, so we may have some from sort of the Nordic side that don't know much about it. So yeah, why don't you just start, just maybe explain what it actually is and how it fits in the whole UK ecosystem.
Sure. So the UKL is what I'd call a tier 3 competition. We are directly below the UKLC, which means we have our top two teams get the chance to play a promotion into the UKLC against the bottom two teams of the UKLC. We have two splits a year, works functionally the same as the UKLC in terms of format. We have slight differences in playoffs, but that's all right. And people can join us twice a year through two different promotion tournaments, or open tournaments, sorry, which the first one we run was last summer just gone. And we had, I think it was about 24 teams sign up. And in this case, because we had two teams unfortunately drop out, the 7th and 8th place just chose not to play relegations. We had 4 teams compete for 2 spots. So that's basically how our year goes. We always have the spring split coming up starting in late January, which will run through till end of March. And then a summer split, date's probably a bit far off to be determined, but it'll be July sort of time.
Good stuff. So yeah, nice intro. So before we go much further into UKEL for now, just want to do kind of like a sort of general interview, really, which we usually do with a new guest, and just talk about how you kind of came to be doing that role that you are now. So you did obviously start off, I think, even was it kind of like as a player, really, in like Insomnia type, those type of things. So how did that kind of start? How did you kind of get into UK League in the first place?
Well, let me grab my time machine and we'll go back quite a long way because I've been around far too long. I've been a general gaming person all my life. So, I mean, one day a friend was like, let's play League. And that's how my addiction began. I went to my first Insomnia. It was Insomnia 49. It was summer of 2013. I think I was a Gold 1 player. I was with a team of friends. I instantly fell in love with like the LAN scene, the competitive scene. It was like I've already played like sport. I've actually played hockey for reference most of my school life, and I really enjoyed competing in that. And this was just like, well, I enjoyed gaming a lot. It was just a natural extension. Then went off to university. I think I was 18 at the time when I went to my first LAN. Went off to university, competed in the NUL, won, I think it was Winter 2015. Regularly came second, which was a good old meme, which I don't know if Will's watching. He'll remember the Birmingham second meme. We came second at every tournament ever, never quite came first. Which then logically drove me to kind of look, well, there must be a bigger scene going on. I was kind of in and around Twitter, but I wasn't super active. And yeah, just started playing on LAN teams. I qualified for 1 ESL Premiership, I think. I was always I was never that good of a player. I peaked to like D3, D2, and was always on like 8th to 12th place team sort of level. Was never call myself super serious as a player, but my drive was there to play, and I enjoyed watching the game. And I love being involved in the scene. Sometimes for the worst, as my younger self was not particularly the most mature person. So, but we won't go into that. But yeah, then I moved on to doing a bit of casting work. I casted for the NUL for about half a year or so. Just really enjoyed that, and maybe one day I'll pick it up again. But I've got my hands full at the moment. Yeah, then did team management for a couple of teams. Started out on Wind and Rain back in the LVP. It wasn't LVP actually, was it? It was. So it was LVP. Yeah, it was Forge Champions. It was when we first did Forge Champions. I did a split with Wind and Rain. Then the following split, I went to Darkspawn Gaming for the first UKLC split, which is actually where I met my co-founder, Mark. He was the team owner of Darkspawn, and he picked me up as his team manager. That wasn't a success story. We got relegated after our first split, but it meant I met a lot of people, got to know a lot of people even better in the scene. Um, and after getting relegated, it's a thing I've already had in the back of my mind was like, there's nothing outside of the top tier of competition. At that time, we didn't have the NLC; it was just the UKLC. So you had your top 8 teams, and then there was nothing else. There's nothing for anybody else to play. So where was the kind of development ground for these teams? So I pitched the idea to Mark of being like, well, we could do this. We only take 4 people really. Have an out tournament admin or 2. Me and Mark will do some basic graphics, basic stream production, and then we just like, yeah, we'll launch into it, see how it goes. Did a test split, which would have been a year and a half ago now, summer of 2019, and well, yeah, the viewership wasn't great to start with, but people loved the idea, and well, here we are, about a year and a half later, regularly getting 300 to 400 viewers on a night. And we're kind of more involved than ever, and everyone, we're now a staple part of the scene.
Good stuff. And when you were like first making the league, was there much discussion about the format, or do you think it just made sense to kind of do it like a sort of regular like round robin into playoffs?
Are you honestly asking him, did they consider a cup format? Is that what you're asking right now? I feel like you ask this every single time. Cup format? Maybe.
If it were truly my choice, I'd do a GSL style four group stage into a playoff, because I love that format. It's like what the old LCK used to use, and I thought it was so hyped seeing like teams come into a big playoffs like that. But it doesn't really work for a tournament which we need to complete in like 7 or 8 weeks. You need so much more time to do that. And really, the first few splits and up till now, we've done single round robin, best of 1, and it's not a great format, but it's all the time we had, and also from our own time perspective, we can't. I was at university, and Mark he works a full-time job. We didn't have all this time to develop it, so we had to keep it kind of somewhat brief at least. But yes, I'd love to do something else, but the reality is this kind of just works best for what we do.
And I think as well, you've kind of got to match it to the organisations which you're pitching it to as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, a lot of them are amateurs. Most of them, I would say, practically all of them are amateurs at that level, because it's all about development. And so, you've also got to find a format which is accessible for them in terms of time, because a lot of it is, you need the time for it.
I remember having a specific conversation with someone. It was at the start of second split, I think it was, and we were like, "Oh, we'd like to start an hour earlier if possible, so we're not finishing quite so late." But then we had people saying like, "Oh, but loads of people won't be back from their jobs in time. They went back from school in time or university or whatever." And we thought, we got to realize that, oh yeah, okay, everyone who's playing in our league, generally speaking, is either a student or working, because they're not making money off esports, because it's that level, So yeah, we've had to adapt to some things like that, but it's come quite naturally to us now.
And then
so no LPL format as well, where we're going to get a game every day, and nothing like that. Then
I'd love to do it, but I don't think my teams would be too happy with me if I turned it around and said, "All right, you got a game a day every day. You're gonna have to suck it up or you get out,"
Or do the old EULCS best of 2s. That was a good one.
No.
Draws in there.
To be fair, there's going to be a slight change in our format, but not too drastic. It'll just be more games basically, because single round robin, best of 1. You could like lose to a team on a bad day, and you're better than them, sort of thing. It's not the fairest way to do it, so we are changing that. But
it is weird though how many formats there is in League of Legends compared to like any other esport as well. Like there's always been like slight changes, but League of Legends seems to be the one where it's like, right, we need a new format. Obviously, LCS have just changed.
Yeah, I was going to say about that. Yeah.
So it's like, it feels like if it's not in the UK scene, which does genuinely happen every split, but it doesn't seem this time, it's normally in some other scene that there's a brand new format which has come through.
Yeah, well, like that LCS one came out today. I think I was like on my lunch from work, and I was reading it. I was thinking, like, this is not relaxing. Let me do. I want to do something else. I was like having to just concentrate too much. It's like so confusing. Because, well, I guess, I don't know, not that confusing, but like having still kind of 2 splits, but not really 2 splits, and they both got different playoff formats, and like you say, it can be pretty much anything. But I agree though. I like that the GSL one. That's one they use obviously in the full open, just recently as well.
Yeah.
And I guess for like competitive integrity, it's really good. Make sure the best teams do go through to the next stages. So it'd be good to see if that could come in at some point.
Yes, I know what format changing I'm doing for the year after next. So I've kind of locked this one in now, but I'll pull something weird and wacky out for that.
Tower format, bring it back.
No, don't. Oh, that's PTSD, man. That's PTSD.
But anyway, before so then for like the first couple of splits, because we'll get into it more in a minute, but obviously for the last split, it is now officially kind of recognised in that ecosystem. But before that, it was unofficial. And I remember in the when it was kind of first announced, it was said that there wasn't contact really with Riot or LVP at the time to have it officially recognised. So kind of how did it go then? Those first two splits when it was unofficial, was there any sort of pushback from Riot or from LVP at all, or was there even discussions with them that maybe it could be recognised at some point before obviously the LVP thing went tits up?
Actually, no, we never heard anything from either of them. It was very much kind of, we were in a way, I guess the way Riot would have classed us, we were a community tournament. We didn't really have prize pool. We did in our second split actually, but it was kind of minimal. It was kind of almost a once-off thing, even if we were building it like a league. And get the Riot kind of avenue, we just emailed them after our second split and said, hey, this is what we're doing. We've had good feedback. These are kind of our viewer numbers. These are the amount of players we're getting through each split. And the first kind of step to that was, I think it was the split before spring split. The winners of spring were offered spots in the closed promotion tournament to summer of UKLC. So while we weren't directly promoting into them at that point, we had that first connection available that our best teams got that kind of, because the reality was there probably wasn't other teams really out there. We had the next 8 teams in the country at that point.
I think it was also. I think the only one was. I think it was Newell, wasn't it? I think it was one.
Yeah.
To get it. Yeah, there was like other ones like that.
Yeah,
but a lot of them were more collegiate. No, I said collegiate. I don't know why I said collegiate. University kind of level.
Yeah.
Kind of more developmental kind of competition. I think was it the Game Arena as well? Was another one I think as well.
Yeah, I think pretty sure it was Belong. It was Belong that did that. Yeah. And then also, while we got 2 teams in through that. Then there was obviously the open qualifiers as well, which I think we got a few. Obviously, most of our teams applied into that. I think that season we ended up having 3 teams pretty much make it to like the end stage of the closed qualifiers. Because I know who was it? London got promoted, and Bulldog got promoted. So we actually got 2 teams in, and we weren't really official part of the ecosystem at that point. And then since then we've had Resolve go on to win. So Resolve have now been promoted into UKLC. We've had 3 teams over the course of 2 or 3 splits really make it into UKLC. So as for actually getting the proper what do you call it? Kind of, I forgot the word now. For Riot, like officially endorsing us as like a 3rd tier league, we just emailed them, and they really liked what we were doing and said they were open to having a conversation with Dreamhack. So we basically just had a discussion between the 3 of us, and Dreamhack were also very, very happy to bring us on board. Actually, in a way, we kind of solve an issue for them, and they don't have to run an open tournament now because we just tell them who to take and what the rosters are, and they just handle their own little promotion. But I have to say, it's been really easy working with Riot and Dreamhack. They've both been really supportive, so it's been really, really good for us.
So then, aside from getting the recognition then from Dreamhack, so what's kind of the benefit then of being recognised at least by Riot? So even if you say you're going to Riot first, that means it it may have been that Riot recognised it as an official league before Dreamhack put it in the ecosystem. So even if Dreamhack hadn't sort of taken you guys on, what would that have meant for the league? From the Riot side.
I mean, at the end of the day, all the RL stuff goes through Riot, so it will be Riot that has the final say on how any ecosystem in any given country is run. So it was always a good sign for us that they were open and receptive. Hard to say. I think we would obviously wanted to keep going, even if we weren't part of the ecosystem. My original plan for this was just to be a place for players to get the chance to play on stream, chance to develop their skills in a team environment, because most of them come straight out of solo queue and they haven't played on teams before, or they played on their university team, or like a Belong team or something like that, and they're just looking for that next level. And that's something I thought was always missing. So I would have kept doing it unless we went down the SQ1 route and of getting a cease and desist letter. I'd have stopped at that point. But other than that, I just wanted to do it to support the scene. If it meant I maybe at the end made a little bit of money out of it, turn it into a business, then great. But it was always really about the scene first.
Yeah, and I guess with like the right recognition, maybe that could even help with like, could it be like sponsors and stuff? Maybe
It's
even like
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's great for us to put on our deck. We are officially recognised by Riot as part of the UK ecosystem, uh, and just other things like it just adds a bit of power to the brand really. When we have new casters wanting to come through, when players are looking to get involved, they know that we're a league that's trustworthy because we're endorsed is maybe a strong word. We're licensed is what we are. We're licensed by Riot, so at least they see that Riot trusts us to do the right job. So we're a reputable place to play, and obviously now that we're fully in the infrastructure, it's the best way to start your UK league career.
And I think what you've just said then is because you've kind of gone into the infrastructure now, it kind of provides the pathway. Like
Yes.
as much as I love like Newell and as much as I love like the Belong kind of arenas, like there was always that feeling of the glass ceiling of kind of, okay, well, if you're the best Newell team to an extent, where do you go into in terms of progression as a team? Where as a player, it's a little bit different. Where as a player, you can kind of just progress from being Newell to then maybe go to UKLC, what it was back then. But now you kind of have this chance to not just develop players, but develop teams and brands to kind of start them from the beginning and work their way up. And also that creates a good narrative. If you get a team which, like this super team, which goes from the UKEL and kind of even if it just doesn't keep all the players, but just as the brand itself works its way up, that's already a written story, which is great. You always need narratives in esports, competitive sports, everything.
Yeah, I think going back to like what I mentioned earlier about the fact that we've had already 3 teams make it to UKLC. London had a good run. Obviously, I'm waiting to see what Resolve will do, but they did. They smashed UKL when they played. So I hope they'll do well. But if those teams go on to do even more, we can keep talking about that and show that we really are the best place to start. That was kind of another reason for setting up UKEL is not just for the players, but for the organizations themselves. They need a place to learn. Everyone has their first job as a team manager somewhere, and the scene shouldn't want that to be in a UKLC. Well, maybe UKLC, maybe, but like you don't want that to go into LC. You don't want a first time person doing that. So they need someone to learn. And before there wasn't that opportunity, so you had people taking positions they weren't really qualified for. But hopefully we're changing that, and we've got plans in the works to try and elevate the level of not just the players, the staff that come through, and also like casters and stuff. We want to be a breeding ground for talent, regardless of the role, basically.
Yeah. So then, since you've kind of got that official partnership then with DreamHack now, what's kind of changed? So what's changed with that? Obviously, we know you've got the whole promotion thing into there, so teams have got that pathway now. But yeah, is there anything else sort of behind the scenes, any help that they give at all, or is it kind of still just sort of running as it was, but now got that promotion?
To be honest, it's been reasonably hands off, and that's not to say that they're not offering their help. They have at every point where they, I've been in contact with Peter, who runs the UKLC product. He's always been very helpful whenever I needed to ask him something. Often it's to do with the promotion thing. It's like, oh, what do you need for this? What do I need to do? And they've always said that if we have any problems that we want to ask them, always get in contact with them. But other than that, they've been quite hands off, which has been nice because it has allowed me to build the UKL in the way that I think is best. And not to say that I do know best, but I've been around this scene for like 8 years now. I've seen just about every level of play as well, and I know kind of what needs to happen. So it's nice, it doesn't feel like I'm being dictated to at any point, but I also know the support's there if I need it. It's been a really great relationship so far.
And what's the viewership been like then? Because you said it's kind of got up to about between 300-400 on average. Did that change at all with the NLC like link or anything, or is it just kind of been like a steady growth?
It's hard to say exactly what the cause was, but we did see general a bigger increase for summer. I think before that we were kind of capping out at about 100 to 120.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we might have the odd peak at like 180 or something if it was a big game, or who knows with Twitch, sometimes there's just more people tuning in, isn't there? But, you know, towards the end of this split, after we'd done the relegation and promotion tournament with them for the first time, people had seen our teams. And honestly, just from our Twitter account, we'd grown the Twitter account by like an extra 500 people. So there was just more people that our message was getting out to. But yeah, I think that's definitely helped people come to us because they know we've got good, solid casting talent. The games we know aren't going to be the best quality games you ever watch, but that's not the point of them. They actually often makes them more exciting in my eyes because you've got people who aren't quite at the top level yet, which they don't always make the best plays, but that can lead to some great moments on stream. You know, when someone does pull off something amazing, it's a really hype moment as well. And I like to think that we have a good product in the terms of our broadcast as well. That's something else we've been spending a lot of time working on. It should be very, from the feedback we've had, people said it's very easy to watch. They like the casters. The casters feel, when I say not so professional, that doesn't mean that they're not doing a great job. They are, but it feels a bit more relaxed and a bit more personable. And people relate to it a bit more. Whereas sometimes you might watch, you know, LEC or even NLC, and yeah, they're talking great. They're great casters, and again, not knocking them at all. It's just feels almost a bit too crisp sometimes, and that's what people have seemed to like about our broadcast.
Nice.
I think it's well that it caters to a different audience, doesn't it? Like,
absolutely,
you know, people who watch it are people who kind of want to see kind of the development, and then like you've said there, like there's only so little you can do about the players which come in because you know that's up to the organizations. Obviously, you have like kind of a barrier to point that, but what you can improve is how it looks and how it's produced and kind of, you know, how a viewer can see it. And I think that's the way to probably go, is to kind of not really focus on, yeah, you could have, I'm not saying that they are bad, but you could have the worst players, but if you have a great product, people will still like it for that reason. And so it makes it better than when you do have those good players which come in as well, but then you've got that product around to support it. And I think that's what's important with a lot, especially with leagues like this. Like, it is about kind of what you see in terms of, you know, what is being delivered.
So then, without maybe sort of giving too much away, what are the kind of general plans moving forward then? So I know there's, well, I saw on the UKEL account that, you know, at some point there's going to be an update about, you know, next split and dates and things. But is there any just sort of general goals that you've got for it, again, without maybe giving anything away that you want to keep under wraps?
I'll have to tread carefully. There's what I will say is we've got a couple of interesting partnerships in the work. One is actually with someone over in the States, which might sound a bit strange at first, but I think once we launch what we're doing with them, that'll be we're actually going to be giving something back to our league. In terms of the teams themselves, they should hopefully see a tangible benefit from that. It sounds really weird talking about it in such a roundabout way, but yeah, I can't say too much because it's not fully complete yet. And also I'm hoping to open up the pathways a bit more from all levels of or other parts of the scene as well. I'm looking to, what's the word here, like smooth out the transition from people starting out there. Even pre-UKEL, I want people to find us more easily. I want people to get involved more easily. So there's another potential partnerships going on there. Also, a lot of people have kind of guessed at it. And while this, I have to stress, it's not an official announcement because it's still in work. People have seen that we were asking for Valorant casters, Valorant staff. If that means something to you, it means something to you.
You might be looking for Valorant casters, Valorant staff to increase your League of Legends. You know,
we're looking to bring people over from that massive game Valorant to transition into League of Legends because it's a new and growing esport, you know.
Yeah, so it's the natural step, obviously.
Yeah, of course. But again, there's not too many details to give on if that were a thing, but if it were a thing, it could be a thing next year.
Good. Nice.
The best way you could have answered that.
I cannot be held accountable, and I'm gonna have to check my DMs to see if I've not said anything too bad. And Mark's gonna kill me.
I think he's actually he's in the chat. He was saying it was.
He is in the chat.
130 average viewers in spring, so it's a really big jump, and hopefully it keeps going then. Maybe if we kind of move away from the UKEL a bit then, and we talk about the elephant in the room. Obviously, everyone probably knows what's been.
I thought it was a wolf.
Oh no! End it there. Right, this is it.
Thank you so much for having me on, guys.
Yeah, no, don't end it.
Alex
Synygy, I'm sorry, mate. You got to step aside.
I'll go. Fine.
It's fine. It's all right. So yeah, everyone obviously, I presume, has seen the article from Esports UK, and Dexerto had their own as well. Basically, with a lot more details of the whole Munster ordeal, really. So we spoke about it quite a bit last week, and sort of debating. I think a big bit of it was debating whether or not they should have been allowed to stay around as Phelan in the UKLC. And one thing we said was that maybe it could be a bit harsh to kick them out, because it could have been, quite a bit Munster's fault as well. Obviously, there weren't many details other than the fact that they didn't get paid. So we didn't know, whose fault it was. Players weren't getting paid. For anyone that hasn't seen this article, then from Esports News UK, I'd recommend maybe even just go and read it now. Maybe come back and watch this at a later time, and it'll make a lot more sense. But basically, the details are out now, and again, I suppose technically, we haven't seen the.
It's not good.
We haven't seen the receipts, so it could somehow still not be true. But it's pretty much the nail in the coffin for Phelan, to be honest, and all sorts of not very good things, really. So, delaying payments, obviously, and saying that there's money coming from Munster that there wasn't, and basically just looks like lying a lot of the time to sort of try and delay things, and the contracts even still saying Phelan on them because the company was still Phelan. So, I guess the kind of biggest question of it then is, after that's come out, is there any reason they should really be in the UKLC anymore? Because it seems like the general consensus is that should be a no, and it should probably be rethought.
So it's very interesting, kind of, because I think, and we've seen it because obviously we've been around like the scene a little bit now in terms of covering it. So we obviously hear like rumors and people like saying things and stuff, and yet. Still, when I was reading that article, I was like, that is something new. Like, there was still something new in there, like, especially from the staff side of thing. I think that was kind of a side of things which I don't think as many people were aware of. Like, I think a lot of the emphasis was kind of put on the players, and the article kind of states that obviously both staff and the players essentially weren't paid according to sources. We do have to state.
I think it said in there, actually, there's still some staff waiting for money as well. So even
exactly. So we always thought of it just from the player perspective, like, but it was the whole, basically what it's seeming like was the whole organization. And for me, I'm going to take it from my perspective, yeah. And obviously, like, Dreamhack will have their reasons, and maybe they didn't know everything, and maybe they will. I've got a feeling that Dreamhack will be aware of these two articles which have come out, the one from Esports News UK, and certainly I think the one from Dexerto as well, because Dexerto is a massive kind of esports media outlet. Maybe Dreamhack didn't have all the information, because there have been people who've been possibly saying that if Phelan had lied about a lot of things, could they have easily lied to Dreamhack as well? So I don't know if this thing is fully kind of cemented, if they are actually going to be there. But if they are, Dreamhack will have a reason for that. And I think we said it in the last podcast that, like, if this is a last chance for Phelan, you better be sure that they'll be monitored. Like, they're going to be 100% monitored throughout the entirety of the league. Like you said, whether they should or should not be in there is a different case. Like, I think I kind of made it a little bit clear that I don't think they should have been. But then I said I didn't know from Dreamhack's perspective what this was. And also I didn't know kind of the amount which had gone through, especially in the article, and kind of the, like, essentially, I hate to say the word, but like conmanship, essentially. It felt a little bit like a con to a lot of people. And I feel really bad hearing that genuinely, to a point, people had to live on other people's couches because they got promised something and it didn't get delivered, and that is horrible. And that shouldn't be happening in a regional league, kind of something which is let's be honest, like EU Masters now is a big event, and so all those leagues associated with that should also be held with the same professionalism, in my opinion. And it sucks to see kind of an organization not do that. So I don't think they should be, but obviously we don't kind of know what DreamHack's been told. We don't know what's been talked about with DreamHack. If they will be monitored. I was going to say they might be monitored. They 100% will be monitored. And honestly, I feel like if something like this does continue, DreamHack will drop them immediately. I don't think it's going to be a case of we'll give you the split if they are going to keep them going. There's also then the talk about people saying, well, are they even going to have a roster essentially to compete? That's a whole other situation, but it's not a good look. Phelan, yeah, it's just not. It's really, really not good. I hate to be so like pessimistic and down on stuff, but it sucks because it like I said, I especially look at the work like Eminem and like Barrage have done, you know, and even the likes of even like Bulldogs and Darkspawn when you were there, and Null and everything like that, these kind of British kind of creations, for me, feel tarnished because of something that Munster Phelan have done. I don't want to say Munster because it wasn't Munster apparently. Like Munster Rugby had, you know, very little to do with that. Whether, you know, they maybe they should have thought that they should have had a bit more control is another question as well. You know, why would you give your license in if that was the rumor? But yeah, I feel like I've gone a bit long-winded on this, but I did just want to get it out. But yeah, because it's for me, it's just bad, and I kind of hope that we don't see this again. And we have seen it multiple other times before. And I get that people have been saying, yeah, this is not a new thing, but this shouldn't mean that shouldn't happen again, especially like if this happened like for me a year ago in the UK scene or 2 years ago in the UK scene, I don't think it has as grave importance as what it does now because of the way that the scene has developed. And it does feel like it's 10 steps forward and I wouldn't say 3 steps back, but it feels like it's more than that. And that's why, because it's an NLC side, which has had to basically do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I mean, I agree with everything you said there, really. To me, it was a bit shocking. Well, when I read the bit about, you know, it was never run by Munster, it was just the naming rights sold to them, basically. That just seemed a bit weird in terms of, like, just run it from a business standpoint. Why it would cost Munster Rugby basically nothing to spawn, like, a subsidiary or something to run this from, have their name stamped on it officially. Maybe, you know, I'm kind of really guessing here because there might have been they probably had their reasons, obviously, right? You know, but it just seems
I would say that the reason would possibly be that maybe Munster wasn't comfortable in creating an esports kind of entity, in the sense of like they didn't have the expertise for it, and so maybe they sought out someone to kind of basically take that name who they thought was a reliable kind of partner who already had that infrastructure. It's the only thing I could think of. Because, you know, again, I think it is the lack of kind of knowledge by Munster. But then, as much as like Munster doesn't deserve like the blame a lot, I do have to say that I don't think Munster is like 100% right. Because for me, you shouldn't be putting your licensing agreement and possibly not doing a proper background check on the organization which you're doing it on. Or, you know, and I wouldn't say that it's completely their fault, because it's not, but that's obviously a mistake on their end as well, which they shouldn't have done.
Mm-hmm. I think it's fair to say that Munster maybe didn't do their research as well as they should have. I mean, just think back from when we were in the league, that split with Phelan before, and even Phelan's history before then. Not to say they've ever done like anything like this before that I know of. It was just a strange partnership when the partnership was first announced. It just felt odd. It was a bit like, I guess the route was, you know, Phelan's an Irish organisation, Munster's an Irish rugby club. In theory, a good pairing. I can't say that I ever felt that Phelan was the most professional org in the UKLC. There was probably many better orgs and many better orgs who weren't in the UKLC at the time. It just felt like almost a forced partnership in a way because they were both Irish brands. I'm kind of guessing here, but yeah, it's just really strange in that regard. I would say again, massive props to all the staff and the players and stuff who dealt with it in the end, and especially the staff that stuck around to support, support the players even if they weren't working or whatever. They tried their best to. There's a few tweets going around about it, from I think it's from Reclamation and there's Blue Spirits as well. Their academy jungler saying, the staff did everything right, and it's just an awful situation to be put in general. And as for should they be in UKLC or not, I mean, I would say that if a team like that applied to UKEL, and we're talking a lower level, I wouldn't want a team like that in my league. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know what to say more about it, really. I don't want teams like that in the UK scene. It just tarnishes our scene. It makes my life harder, because if I go and try and find a non-endemic sponsor, and they point to this thing, that's a possibility. Yeah. And, they could have screwed us over and every other org in the scene over. It's very frustrating, especially knowing how many good people there are who do great work in the scene, who could have used that opportunity and created something absolutely amazing from it.
Mm-hmm. I think it'd be interesting to see if there could be like any more transparency about why they're allowed in still, because I assume there wouldn't have been a plan, for there to be any, especially given like the announcement that DreamHack made was obviously very vague, and it said it was just like. I don't remember the exact term they used, but like what kind of issues there were. They kind of didn't make it sound like it was something overly dramatic. But then obviously with all this coming out and everyone now sort of saying that, I don't remember who it was. I saw someone saying that like all the UKLC teams should say to DreamHack that they don't want this other team in there, and try and like sort of rally against having them in there. So yeah, I don't know. With it all kicking off more, I think that would be good at least, and maybe get some more context from DreamHack as to why they're giving them another chance. I don't know how feasible that really is, because I guess it's all sort of legal stuff and there's details they probably couldn't give away. But yeah, it's going to be a weird one, because if they do keep that decision to let them in, it is going to be a question mark on the league, and even for the NLC it could be difficult. Like that's a team competing in one of their leagues, and for them to get sponsors could be the same sort of thing. People looking at that ecosystem and see all this stuff that's happened with Phelan, could be question marks for DreamHack themselves.
I think as well is that like with regards to kind of like transparency and stuff like that, I think it's really difficult for, I would say, DreamHack to be transparent without. For me, if they were transparent about the situation, it'd be very hard for them to kind of create a reason for be like, okay, this is why we're doing it, which wouldn't give more of a kind of look. I don't know how to say this. It's the way of like, essentially, if you're being really transparent about something, to this serious of a situation in this like kind of scene, then it's hard for you to justify kind of the actions which then you have done, to a point where you could actually write this and be like, actually, maybe it was a wrong mistake. And like I said, I don't think that DreamHack was expecting basically these articles to come out. Mm-hmm. I think this may change what DreamHack perceives it, to a point where they may make a statement. I would be surprised if they do, because of kind of, like I said, a lot of it again is legal and stuff like that. And I think as well, it's like, I think a lot of people have kind of questioned why this wasn't said sooner. I've had a few people, like, I've looked through and said that why is it now that kind of people have said it? And I think that the way that Esports News UK kind of covered that was really, really good, in the fact that the sense of, basically these people basically said, don't cover it yet, because we want to see if we can sort it out ourselves, which for me, like, props to those people, because that kind of shows that they didn't want the scene to be tainted. They wanted this to kind of be sorted, put under the rug, and then maybe if this same thing had happened, but then like it all had been sorted internally, I don't think there would be kind of this backlash. Whether it was, I think it's good that there's this backlash, but if this kind of was like, oh, Munster has left and now Cover's up and Phelan have gone down, but then this whole thing had been sorted internally, I think internally there'll be some bad blood with Phelan, but it would not have this kind of outcry. And it's because essentially the staff and the players tried to do them a service and tried to do the scene a service by saying, please don't, spread this information yet. let's sort it, whether that be legally, which I think some have gone to, or just through the organisation itself. And it's the organisation's fault, I think, why this has kind of got to that point where it had to be basically spoken about, which is a shame.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it would have been completely understandable if lots of the players and the staff came out early with this and were just like furious about it. But as you said already, they did a service to Phelan, and they gave Phelan a chance to resolve the issue before it blew up into anything big. But I think it goes back to the point that it was obviously an overpromise originally on Phelan's behalf, and were they ever going to be able to fix this? If they were really promised that much money and Phelan never really had any money in the first place, to suddenly make, I'm going to guess it's probably in at least to £10,000, if not more, that's owed across multiple people, just based on kind of, guess a hunch. Yeah, they're not going to suddenly make that money up, and no one's going to want to sponsor Phelan now. Why would they? They have an awful reputation.
But and I think as well, like again, like we quoted the Esports News UK. I would tell everybody to go and read that article. Like, don't just listen to us. Read that article. Read the Dexerto article as well. It's really, really good. Kind of, they kind of show the similar thing, but they have a different light. I think in kind of the situation. I think both are really good. And I think as well, like they kind of said that the reason, this is what Esports News UK said, anyways, that sources told them that Munster were finding it hard to find sponsorships, and maybe there was I think there was kind of that inference of maybe they were relying on sponsorships coming in to pay kind of the players or the staff, and those didn't come through. But then again, that's bad business practice. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be relying on that at all.
I can't believe someone with as big a brand as Munster, who have sponsors, I'm sure. I can't say that I follow Irish rugby, but I'm sure they must have sponsors for their, what sports team at that level doesn't have sponsors for that team? And I'm not saying they need to be the same ones, but they must have someone who does marketing for them, who does sponsorship partnerships and stuff. If things are going that bad, or maybe it's time to divert just a little bit of resources, to fix the problem. Because now they've ended up in a whole heap of shit, really.
But then you've got this situation, is that if you're Munster and you've kind of just given them the licensing, which is what rumoured is what it is now, like, do you then want to invest money into an organisation which is already kind of, in their eyes, probably seeming a little bit, untrustworthy at that point anyway?
For sure.
Yeah,
I mean, the problem is there's so many different layers of difficulty to this. I just find it bizarre that they've signed away their name rights, though, and then not want anything to really... Not that they didn't want anything to do with it, or like couldn't really do anything with it. It's almost like, because Munster had no idea what was going on with the esports thing, which is what it sounds like. They basically couldn't fix anything or even start the process of fixing anything because they didn't get the scene. It sounds like they were all going through Kieran or Wings, the, I guess, Phelan CEO, and he was just telling them it was all fine. That's... Again, it's bad business on Munster's part, and that's probably the only real mistake they've made is a bit of poor research, and maybe how that's led to this decision. But the whole thing is so scuffed.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Well, then going on to...
Go on, Lee. Can you turn this around? Turn this conversation
just a bit sort of on the same topic. We had Rydona in the chat talking about the next split, saying they highly doubt they'll be in the next split anyway, because basically won't get any players, because who would want to play for them at that point? But I guess that's something where, like, I've seen people mention that as well. That there's people tweeting. I think it was Kial said like, "Oh, any players looking for a team, try and avoid them, and this and that." Now, I doubt that's going to happen. Like, I doubt they're not going to get players. Like, I'm if you're a player that wants to play in the UKLC and they're the only team left, I imagine players are still going to accept it. I guess it's just something that everyone is going to have to be very careful, and staff as well, I suppose, and just maybe something people to bear in mind that could potentially be joining for that UKLC split. Just make sure at least the grammar in the contracts looks all right for starters, and that's at least a better sign than what these guys had.
For sure.
I agree though that like I said, that I think that now more information has come out. I I don't expect this to be kind of over. It could be. It could be the case of, like I said, DreamHack reaffirm their stance and say this is the second chance we're going to monitor you. But that was before all this information came out, and depending on kind of how it goes. And for me, I think that there's been a lot. Like, we have a lot of drama in the UK. There's no denying that at all. But this seems to have transcended that a little bit more to kind of like the wider scene.
I do,
and that's what's major about it.
I'd find it hard to believe though that DreamHack wouldn't have known this information anyway. If the players had gone to the players and staff, it says in the article at least, had gone to DreamHack and Riot about it. Even if DreamHack changed their mind now and kicked them out of the UKLC, it kind of would feel like they sort of just bottled it in the first place by letting them stay, and maybe did that kind of like vague announcement, maybe in the hopes that it wouldn't all come out, and we're just kind of for some reason giving them that second chance. But I agree, now that that's all come out, I wouldn't be very surprised at all to see it revoked and just see him gone basically.
But then I also want to go on.
I would say the only thing which, from like a league ops perspective, which may be in play is if there is, but I don't see why there wouldn't be any clause to get out of this because there will be there'll be a contract signed between Phelan and DreamHack to compete in this, like the spot's theirs after they sign the contract. Unless there's some weird legal issue surrounding that means DreamHack can't get out of that contract with them, but I don't see why that would be the case. I mean, if it was me writing it, I wouldn't, if there's a team acting in the way that Phelan have, I would want a way to cut that tie immediately.
Yeah, you've got to have some sort of clauses.
I would say there probably is a clause like that, and it's probably another reason. It was just another sort of food for thought. Well, maybe there's some contractual issue there. And you also never know whether Riot have had some say in it, because it's at the end of the day Riot's ERL, even if DreamHack are the ones kind of producing and facilitating it. There's so many layers to it, really.
Yeah, I think kind of to end this note though, I feel like if they do have staff and if they do kind of have players which come in, I don't kind of want to see people. For me, like, the organization has done a bad thing, and you should rightfully criticize, I think, what they've done, but don't take that hatred out on the players and the staff, because, like, for me, like, that's a different level. You don't want to be, because these players might be essentially doing this because that's actually their only chance which they have, or their only other opportunities, and and it's maybe an unwise decision for them, but I wouldn't want people to be kind of like flaming them for being at kind of that organization, at least like on the outset anyway. But like I said though, but like, to be fair, at this level, why would you? That's the unfortunate thing right now. Like, why would you kind of go to there to have that backlash, which I think there will be, which is, I do think, unfortunate from the player side, but maybe rightfully so from an organizational standpoint. Unless, like I said, there's been promises which have been made, and he's turned a new leaf. Like, I like to be partial. I do agree that there's a lot of criticism. I'm very much on that side. I don't think they should be in. But then also, I do sometimes believe that there is a chance that someone could genuinely change their ways or change something from the organization standpoint, and it could be something which could be rebuilt. But at what point then do you kind of say, do you end it, essentially? But like, so I don't want to be kind of right off the bat be like, this is the worst thing for players and stuff like that, because the things could actually change at Phelan. We haven't really mentioned that, but there could be like actual immediate changes which could happen at Phelan, which could change a lot of things as well. So
yeah.
For sure.
Then to maybe move it on to kind of a more positive note, I suppose. I want to talk about a tweet that you'd made, Synygy.
Yes.
When I think it was back when the NLC announcement happened.
Yeah, this was just after. This is last week. Yeah, just after it.
I basically said that even with sort of half the money that Munster had spent, or not spent, but had offered at least, or Munster or Phelan, should we say? That even with half that money, basically saying that it could be so much better spent on the UKEL and grassroots, and to kind of help the scene as a whole. So I just want to talk about maybe what were some of the things that if you had that, let's even just say if you had sort of unlimited funding, basically, just yeah, what other kind of improvements that you think could be made, or what schemes of things did you have in mind?
I mean, I'll start this out by prefacing, obviously, I'm going to be slightly biased because I run a league, so obviously I want money. But with that in mind, something, and this is going to go off on a slight tangent, but I promise I'll come back. Something I really found was helpful to me when I was growing up and playing, I mentioned earlier, played a lot of hockey when I was growing up, and I went through what we called like the player development pathway. And it was like a system that England Hockey, which is equivalent of the FA, I guess, for hockey, it basically sets up a youth development program that saw, you start at your regional or kind of little town level, you'd go to county, go to regional. Yeah, it works the same in a lot of sports in the UK. But the whole system was run under the same structure. So it meant that if you went and then played at a different club, say, but you met people at your county level, you were being taught the same stuff, right? So you were learning all in the same way, and it was very homogenized. That's something the UK in the league has never had. We've been so fractured into these different groups. There's been NUL, there's NSE, there's Belong, there's UKLC. None of them really ever connected together. There was some minor overlap, but we were all like on the edges of kind of, I don't know how to best describe it. But yeah, I think you get what I'm saying. And I want to start. If I had unlimited money, I would love to start alongside being in UKL. There was a UKL development program for staff, for casters, for players, so that people who came into our league weren't just getting the chance to play and play on stream, which is nice, but we'd be able to offer. It wouldn't be coaching from us per se, but we'd be able to offer workshops to people, for example, how to effectively manage. You're kind of almost offering like not a uni course, but a course in a way that's taught kind of academically over the course of the time that the people are in our league. They might have an hour a week or an hour every 2 weeks, and you don't want to have a huge time commitment because I realise that people are busy and stuff. But we struggle so much in the UK because it's not structured and the staff aren't there to support players. There's good things going on, in UKLC and especially NLC. The people who do management stuff they're all great, but they're few and far between, and we don't have enough, especially in UKL, to fill out every slot with someone who's great at what they do, which is also to be expected, right? Because we're there as people's first step, and not people make that first step, decide they don't like it or it's not for them, they step out, and that's fine. But there's no structured way to learn. You've kind of just got to do it all yourself, and if you're really keen, people will do that, but there's no easy way to get in. And the only way for us to get better as a whole scene is for that development to be there. And it's something, unfortunately, that will need money to get itself there. Again, go back to the hockey thing. England Hockey put so much money into their youth development program, and as a result, we have a national team that's about top 4 in the world. And obviously it's a slightly different thing, but I think you can apply the same principles to that. And you apply it to UK League. And again, I'm not looking to change the UK overnight. It's not going to happen. There'll be bad habits lingering for ages. But I want UKL to have started that process. And in 3 or 4 years' time, we have teams which are regularly, and not just Fnatic and XL and the likes, but we regularly are placing well in things like EU Masters. There's more than one player in the LEC, because at the moment it's looking like there'll only be one UK player in LEC, and I can't even remember who that is now, which is probably not bad, my bad. But yeah, Dan, of course it's Dan. Why, as a country we're one of the bigger countries in Europe, we have a singular representative in the LEC. That's bizarre to me, and it's also bizarre because probably 7 years ago when I went to my first LAN, we had 100+ teams turning up to compete at a LAN. A lot of them were silver and gold and stuff, but the interest was there. That interest has been lost because now we only have like 10, 12 teams turning up to a LAN in so many these days. It's crazy. And that's my big goal here, is to drive more interest in UK League, get people started early, because I think, as with any good building, and any engineers will understand, if you have good foundations, the rest of the building stays stronger. We've been a top-heavy scene for forever. And things that are top heavy, well, they sway about, right? So, and we've been yo-yoing back and forth. We've had some good moments, sure, and we're definitely building on that. But I will always maintain that having a good core grassroots scene is the best any scene can do.
I think you're completely right, because I think what I find very interesting is because League of Legends kind of got like mainstream popularity competitively. So the professional scene got a lot of development to kind of make sure that it was professional, essentially, that it was legitimate to kind of a mainstream audience. So if a casual viewer would look at the biggest kind of tournaments, they would see, oh, this is actually like a proper kind of broadcast, a proper structure, and there's the integrity normally in League of Legends is quite high, I would say, to compare to a lot of other like esports, and a lot of other esports are following that way as well. But because of that, like you said, now there's this shift to, well, now we need to focus on development. That's why kind of like Newell has been, I feel like a lot of people talk about Newell, but Newell hasn't been along for like a long period of time. That's another recent kind of development in terms of even pushing that even further. And then obviously having kind of development scenes, so that the ERL system, I think, was a good kind of semi-professional step, which kind of got brought in. And so where kind of you see a lot of sports work down up, definitely League of Legends has worked up down. So now it's kind of like we've sorted our professional scene, and now we're going to kind of basically sustain it, make it sustainable for a long period of time. And like I said, if you don't have a good grassroots scene, then you're going to lose interest, because a lot of people participate in the game before they even look at it competitively. There are going to be some which will watch it competitively before they play it. But if you can kind of boost that grassroots scene, you're also boosting potential customers for every like pillar of it, not just from a professional standpoint, but from a viewership standpoint as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think also, and I know I've got to be careful what I say without stepping on people's toes, but we had a great point, as I mentioned, back in like 2014, 2015, where the scene was booming. We had so many people involved in it, and the opportunity was squandered at the time by poor tournament management. I believe it was ESL at the time. It's not strictly their fault. There were some issues with the tournament. At the time as well, I don't think Riot UK did enough to support the scene. There was these big grand plans, and they never really materialized. And so, the interest kind of waned, and League was no longer a new, exciting game. It'd been around for a little while, so people were a bit less interested, I guess, as well. But we really lost the momentum that we had. I'd like to say it's picking up again. The scene feels different now than it did even a couple of years ago. The fact that I was able to do what I'm doing is kind of testament to that. There's a market for it, and people are interested. We've just got to be giving them the opportunities that they deserve and they need. And I would love that to be me. But unfortunately, I think as I come back to the money talk, if these things don't start, while we have the best set of volunteers I could ever ask for, they put so much work and time into the league to make it work, and I feel guilty, not being able to pay them what they deserve. Me myself, I can say I've made about 300 quid off 1.5 years of UKL. That's all I've made. So as you can tell, I'm balling, ready to go big. My mansion's getting built as we speak. No, but obviously without a cash injection at the grassroots scene. And I'm not saying this has to be us. If there's plenty of other good organisations that people like Newell, like NFC, they're doing the same thing we are, just for maybe it's a bit more niche scene because it is only students and stuff. But they could do with funding as well. But they are both doing very well themselves. Having said that, it's not going to start itself. It will need an injection at some point, really. And we are trying our best to get that for ourselves, and as well, to help the scene, but. It ain't easy, I'll tell you that. People always want to sponsor the big teams because and from a marketing perspective, that makes sense. Why sponsor us when you could sponsor Fnatic, XL, and have your name in front of hundreds of thousands of people? And I fully understand that. Obviously, this is a bit more of a long-term project than just making a bit of money over the next year.
Mm-hmm. I think as well, the selling point is development as well, isn't it? Like for me, a lot of people have had their say about MasterCard for one, but I like MasterCard obviously in the esports. Some of their activations have been unique. I think is the best way to kind of say it. I like them personally, but I know some people who hate the gold graph and everything like that. But like MasterCard sponsored obviously like mainstream tournaments in League of Legends, like higher division, and then also sponsor the NLC, because for them as a brand, that kind of shows that they're willing to show development. They're also supporting an ERL regional league and showcase kind of, look, we're also looking at not just the current, but as a brand, they're thinking, right, as a package deal, we're also showing we can invest in the future. And I think that's what you see a lot with like a lot of other sponsorships in kind of football as well. You kind of see these developmental, and it's normally the main sponsor of like a football club is also like the sponsor of like the youth team or of a youth kind of activation. And I think that's kind of the selling point, isn't it? Is it's like getting the more endemic brands which come into kind of League of Legends as well, the more these endemic brands will also look at kind of the future, and then we'll start kind of sponsoring other things. And it is that trickle down effect as well at points.
Yeah, for sure. And if there's investment in the scene now, certainly in 2, 3, 4, 5 years time, we can easily see a boost in viewership. Yeah, there's no reason, and I don't mean us as UKL, I mean the scene as a whole could easily double its viewership. There's something that's always been historically bad about the UK is we haven't had much viewership compared to other ERLs like Germany, like Spain, France. It requires a bit of smart thinking in terms of outreach and how can you reach people that want to watch this thing, and then obviously having a product that is engaging to those people as well. And I certainly have my ideas, which is what we're trying to execute on at the UKEL. But yeah, I don't see why we can't double the size of the scene, in the next 2 to 3 years. It just needs the money in the right place. And, well, I guess Phelan wasn't the right place.
Oh, no.
There wasn't money anyway. One thing I've actually kind of wondered was, like, do you think even adding something like Clash into the client could help people to get more interested in it? Because we've sort of said about how people maybe aren't as interested in going to LANs and things. I think there was some couple of comments in the chat about people maybe just not even sort of trying to take part, those that even do play the game. But maybe it could be a thing people don't even realise sort of where to go for that, because before there wasn't really anywhere. If you're just someone that logs on to League of Legends and plays with your friends, there's not an easy way to see that tournaments are going on and you can play in these different things. So do you think something like that could even sort of maybe people just like the competitive edge in the monthly Clash or whatever, and maybe could go looking elsewhere and maybe find things like the UKEL from there? Do you think it could help at all?
For sure. I mean, the way I see it is that anyone who's getting interest into competitive league through any means, that's a good thing for us and for the scene as a whole. I think Clash does an all right job of it. It's a good start. I must say that I really missed the ranked 5s ladder when that used to be a thing. It had its flaws, and I'm not saying it's probably not an easy fix. But having a ladder where teams could compete and you start to recognize the names, and you're doing well when you're near the top and so on, there's got to be a good way around that, because I think that's an easy way. The in-client thing is, I guess, what I'm getting at. So Clash is part of the reason why that's good. Easy access to competitive 5v5 League of Legends is the best way to start getting people interested. And I'm sure there's ways you can. I'm sure Riot have thought of many ways to do it, but targeting people who are playing a lot of Clash by suggesting a link to them or something. I don't know, whether it's an email campaign. Oh, hi, we've seen you've played every Clash in the last 2-3 months. Thought about playing more, or something like that. There's so many different ways to approach it, and I haven't even really thought about it for very long. Yeah, but I agree. I think having something in client is good. Obviously, it's not all on Riot's job to advertise ERLs and stuff, so we've got to take some responsibility for that ourselves. I mean, especially for us, because we are the lowest tier that you can get, really. We're as far removed from Riot kind of official competition as possible. But the more people we get involved, the better it'll be. I mean, it's just a simple outreach thing in my mind.
Yeah, I think they definitely could advertise maybe a bit more. I remember when it was LVP really, is when when Riot would advertise things in the client, and I remember when it was like Forge of Champions, they would promote to sign up for it. So I'm sure there's some stuff that they could sort of bring back a bit more and maybe do a little bit more. But yeah,
I mean, I can kind of explain why that is a little bit. That'll be a license thing, which is something that we don't have at the moment. Again, I can't speak too much for because obviously the license itself is, I guess, under NDA sort of thing. But yeah, the bigger tournaments will get that. We don't qualify for that at the moment. We're too small. I think in the past, people like the NUEL have had some of their tournaments advertised on there as well. So
yeah, I think the finals definitely normally gets kind of a push with things. So
I think there's like a good start there. for sure, I think maybe there could be more, but I also realized that Riot have their own products to advertise in their client. They've got to make money, and people watching the null doesn't necessarily see a direct return for them. So I understand how it's going to be. But I think the foundations are there. It's just building on those a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Other than that, then that's kind of the main topics I had. Really, is there anything you guys had? Anything you wanted to cover before we finish up, or any questions in chat as well? There was actually a bit of back and forth in the chat about the
The
UK.
rumour.
Yeah, and whether
Well,
you've got.
I'll answer that on stream because I thought it was hilarious.
Wait, what was the rumor?
So it was
I've not got the chat.
There was a
up,
question.
so-
How would you respond to rumours that the UKEL has leaned on Riot for preferential treatment and to close off competition?
I mean, obviously, I'm going to straight up say that no, we haven't done that, which I think is a rather obvious answer. And just for people to think about, Riot is a multi-million-dollar company. We have £0 officially to our name. What am I leaning on them with? Like, we have 300 people who watch our stream. They have millions. Like, what? Yeah, I don't know. It's just no, it doesn't happen. We had an open dialogue with them, and things went from there. They liked what we were doing. I guess it might look suspicious because we started up and kind of got a bit recognized as SQ1 got their cease and desist letter, which I'm assuming is kind of where people are drawing a correlation.
Mhm.
I've sat in a call with the guy who runs SQ1, and we talked about doing collaborative work. There's nothing bad there, And well, I'd like to think, when we had this sit down chat, that he would have mentioned if he thought there was anything bad going on. I've never heard this rumor before. Generally, never heard anything about this, so I'm not going to give it too much time. But yeah,
I think as well, just as like maybe I'm maybe saying that as well, like when he said, was it like limiting competition or something like that? I think.
yeah, closing
It's
off
like,
competition.
So I wonder if he's kind of inferring that obviously by having this kind of league system, is it kind of limiting other organizations in terms of like a massive open tournament which could say occur to get into the UKLC? And I think you could probably answer that by basically saying that there are still kind of things like that which are going on, which you can qualify with open tournaments and everything like that. That's not a thing which has disappeared.
Yeah,
it is a way that everything's adapted.
They're certainly not disappeared, and we're not. There's no. The only requirement to play in our league is that you're Diamond 4 or higher, and each team fields 3 out of 5 UK residents. It's all very simple stuff. There's no. Yes, we are limiting people in that regard, but that's the same for any other league. That rule set is the same as DreamHack, I'm pretty sure. And we have an open qualifier tournament where if you're the best 2 teams, you get a shot at promotion. That's just how it works, and it's how DreamHack. If we weren't there, that's how DreamHack would almost certainly run their tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think it's closing off competition at all.
Yeah. I agree. I just wanted you to say that
sure.
you do have an open tournament, because like I think that some people kind of get this feeling, especially when you look at the pyramid. They look at it as like literally it is a pyramid where it's solid stone. Where it's like if you're not in that 3rd tier, there is nothing underneath that. It is the pyramid. The 3rd tier is that's it. And I think that people kind of don't realize that there are actually amateur tournaments, open tournaments. There are loads of community League of Legends tournaments as well.
Log into Challenger mode, right? And there's 20,000 tournaments of even if you just like ARAM, whatever it might be, there's tournaments online. They're reasonably easy to find. But obviously, to be a competitive ERL, an ecosystem, we need structure, and that's the way it is. I guess I wouldn't advocate for there being a 4th division, because at some point you are limiting upward movement because it will take so long. It's not, and there's not the money in it like there is in football to justify spending a season playing, championship or whatever. But having said that, we have been told that we are free to expand our tournament as we like. We were talking about, and this got scrapped early on, but it was a talk that we could have 16 teams in spring. Because the interest was there. We had 24 teams in the open qualifiers. We've been given permission to expand if we need to, such to allow more teams. I think the best way to describe is that it's better for us to now expand sideways rather than adding a tier below. So people can get in and get started, and then only the best still will get promoted to UKLC. But if it continues growing the way it has, I would very likely think that by 2022 we might have 16 teams.
Very
But
nice.
that's going to be a lot more work for me, so I don't really envy that either.
Nice.
You're gonna have to give yourself a pay rise of zero
Well,
pounds.
if I told you that I treated myself to a Milky Way chocolate bar today, I'm really spending. I'm really spending.
Push the boat out.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice. Well, we had when I asked about if any questions in chat, we've had Megalodontus asking to cover Cyberpunk. I'm not sure how much we can cover on that, so I'm sorry about that one.
It's great for new gen. It's not so great for old gen. I think that's how we say it.
Yeah.
There we go.
If anyone's got any questions about Shadowlands, I'll talk about that. I haven't stopped playing for about 2 weeks now.
Also, with Cyberpunk, if you want to talk about transparency, Cyberpunk may be a little bit too transparent with everything. Yeah, there is an apology every day, practically. It seemed like with them, but and Race the World First is coming. If you talk about Shadowlands.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited. Tomorrow that will, or later tonight actually, might even kick off in America. It's otherwise tomorrow for EU.
Niche. It's so niche.
That's very niche. I love it, but I won't bore your chat with aimless World of Warcraft talk.
Nice.
Yeah, see if complexity limit will win it again. Oh, see.
Could be Echo. Could be Echo. Echo is pretty good.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Lee?
I
at
haven't got a
all?
clue. It's World of Warcraft, right?
Yeah.
I'm not that out of the loop, but that's about.
You're not a total boomer yet.
No, not quite.
Don't worry, mate. I am. I'm getting that way.
Well, I don't know if you were. How old are you? I think we're.
I'm 25.
All right, you've got a year on me, so.
You may be the oldest guest we've ever had now.
Oh, really? I might be the oldest, but I'm certainly the youngest looking.
Very nice. And then, I guess to finish off Viperoon as well, pretty happy about Tom being in a Reading shirt. Guess maybe a bit of a disappointment to learn you're not a Reading fan. But
No, I just collect football tops. It was that or the Real Madrid top, but they've not been playing well recently, so I've opted not to do that. So,
nice.
But Reading, why have I picked Reading? No, but hey, I'm not gonna slate Reading. Like,
what when you collect the shirts, then what's the criteria to get one?
So this one, I have a story for each one, but this one in particular, our JB Sport was closing down, and it cost. I got this ages ago. It's like Waitrose. I don't know if you can see it, but Waitrose are the sponsors. That's why I love it. And it cost me £3. So I got an extra large when I was in high school, and so it still fits me to this day. But it was massive when I got it.
Value. That's just value, that is.
Nice. Well,
Also, do you see Kai's message in the chat? Kai is the person who ran SQ1, which had immediately crushed that rumor that we leaned on, right?
Oh, well, there you go. So if we just
it's validated.
Yeah, I've spoken to Alex, and like he said on stream, our chat was friendly and frank, and this rumor was never brought up. It's quite a long message. I won't read it all out loud, but basically, has put an end to that. So it was a very short-lived rumor.
Yeah.
But what we need in the UK is more drama.
Yeah.
We need more drama. That's what we need.
If you want drama, let me post on Twitter. And I'll drum up some support. But no, I appreciate what Kai said for clearing that up.
Good stuff. Well, I think that's a good point to maybe finish up then. So, thanks for those that have been listening. It's good to have a nice bit of activity in the chat as well. A few questions coming through. We had Trial followed earlier as well. I know a fair few in the chat probably haven't followed yet, so do feel free to if you want to watch some future episodes. And otherwise, if you're listening back on YouTube,
we're close to 50. We're close to 50 episodes, guys.
Yeah, it's
50.
Crazy. Oh, there we go. Rydonna followed as well. Thanks for that. And yeah, otherwise, if you're watching back on YouTube or Spotify later, you can obviously follow on there too. Oh God, they're all flying through now. Viperoon, Emmy as well. Thanks, guys. And yeah, so you can follow on YouTube and Spotify later on as well. And then our Twitters are on the screen too, so you can drop us a follow personally. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening.